What do you do when there's nothing else left? I was a college graduate who, 2 years after I collected my certificate, was still unemployed. There was a gaping blank on my resume. Add to the fact that my debts were now out of control, and it's fair to say I was a mess and growing ever more desperate. So what was I going to do about this? How was I going to dig myself out of this hole? I was staying up all night, trawling through the internet. Is there a point at which the internet does end and sanity begins? I neither knew nor cared. I watched thousands of clips, reading conspiracy theories and news reports until they blurred into one stream of a hyperbole. I slept fitfully during the day and went back online the minute I woke up. I would surf even though I needed to use the bathroom until it hurt. I forgot to eat or drink, and soon I had a permanent background headache. Like most addicts, it wasn't long before I moved to the harder stuff, the deep web. I was sickened by a lot of what I saw, but still immersed myself more and more. When I stumbled across a site that changed my life, it looked fairly innocuous at first. There's a simple hero image, outline of a human body, and a drop-down menu in the right-hand side, accessed via 3 short lines. For other people, it's one more bet, one more drink. I clicked on one more link. I was surprised to see only 2 options, buyer and seller. I wasn't going to be buying anything real soon, so I followed the warning mark, seller. The sub-menu left me open-mouthed. It listed items that could be sold and gave a price that the seller would receive. All I needed to do was add details for my preferred way to receive payment, then tick the box next to the item. The first item on this list was likeness. For the price shown, I could pay the 2 months I was overdue on my rent and buy wine and pizza every night for a week with what was left over. Now, I was not sure what they meant by likeness. Other items that I could sell via the website were more straightforward. Things like my social security number, my date of birth, even my name. A lot of these seemed like ways to commit fraud for the buyers. All very dubious, but at least, I thought, they were paying us to use our details rather than simply stealing them, as so often happened. Likeness seemed more ethereal though. I decided it meant the right to use my image, a photograph of my face. I also decided I really wanted beer and pizza, and to be able to tell my landlord to get off my back because I have paid your damn rent. I added my details for the money transfer, ticked the box next to likeness, and pressed submit. A transaction processing symbol turned into transaction complete. A new box appeared, giving me the option to comment. I typed, "Do you need me to send you a photograph?" thinking this would answer my question about what exactly I just sold. A moment later, a reply came, "We already have it." I flashed back to some of the things I had done in front of the computer screen, then decided I'd rather not think about it. Feeling nervous, sure I was being scammed, about to kick myself for being naive, I checked my balance. What do you know? The money was in there. I went back to the good old innocent web and ordered the largest, most overloaded pizza I could think of, then began to add sides. It took 2 weeks for me to blow the money from selling my likeness. I had a great time without leaving my apartment, and I had paid no rent. Not to worry, I told myself, and returned to the deep web and my new favorite website. This time, I hovered over fingerprints. 30 seconds of considering flagged a dozen dodgy things that this could lead to, but it was the money that I would make that made me think, whatever, ticked the box and submitted. This time, 10 small boxes appeared on the screen with the instructions for me to place the ends of my fingers in them, which I did, and within seconds the transaction was complete. And within minutes, I could see that I was once again flush. Problems over. I could pay my rent and enough off the credit card to make the bank back off. In the comment box, I typed, "Thank you." The reply was almost immediate. "You are welcome." Now, I don't know if anyone reading this is a gambler, but I guess if they are, they would not by now have put money on me, spending the money wisely, and they would be right. This time, I told myself another couple of weeks later, I would get my acting gear. I spent a significant time going through the items I could sell and created a spreadsheet with how much I owed, so I knew the amount I needed to earn with this one final sale of part of me. I had decided, you see, that this would be the last time. There's a relatively small number of things left that I could sell, that I was prepared to sell. My name, date of birth, and social security number were still no-goes. I didn't want to risk losing the ability to have a bank account and find employment. A history of being a disaster did not mean, in my mind, I always would be. So, one final sale it was, then clear my debts and find a job. I ticked a box next to sell body part. From the next list, tick the box for kidney. I was close to hyperventilating when I pressed the submit button. Close to tears not long afterwards when I checked my balance. I felt like a huge pressure had been lifted. With this money, I could finally get my life back on track. The comment box already had text in it. I'd been too worked up to read it, so I took a deep breath and did. It was an 8-digit reference number, an address, and a time later that day. An appointment for me to get my kidney removed, I figured. I considered not going. I already had the money, so why bother? Then I thought back to the message telling me that they already had my photograph. Whoever ran the website probably knew where I lived as well, or could easily find out. It's not rocket science to work out that they probably were bad people, criminals, some kind of gang, not people to cross or mess with. I felt sick as I left the apartment at the prospect of having an operation, but also elated at the amazing things ahead of me. I just needed to get it over with. The address turned out to be a nondescript building on the outskirts of town. The windows were all shuttered and there was no signage, just the human outline I recognized from the website. The keypad was fixed into the wall next to a sturdy looking door. Not sure what else to do, I entered the reference number. The door slid open with a sigh. My stomach doing backflips, I stepped inside. I could hear the drone of the air conditioner, but still suddenly felt very hot. Nerves, I told myself, totally natural. I seemed to be in some kind of reception area, but it was deserted. Scratch that, a man appeared. He was wearing a white overall and a mask and safety glasses. He may or may not have been smiling when he said this. Welcome, let's get you prepped. I followed him along a long corridor. The walls were blank, whitewashed, and the smell of antiseptic was growing stronger. Eventually, he turned off into a small windowless room. I hesitated on the threshold. There was a raised table, fluorescent strips overhead, a stack of equipment next to the bed. Medical, I guessed, though I had no idea. Please, the man said, and gestured that I should come in. I smiled weakly and did. He gave me a robe to put on and turned to do something to the equipment while I got changed. I assumed that I needed to lie down on the table, and when he looked around from whatever he had been doing, he saw me and said, "Good." Made me feel like a dog rolling over and playing dead, but I kept this to myself. I did, though, have some questions. "Is this safe?" "Perfectly," he replied without missing a beat. I wasn't sure. I felt hot to the point where I thought I was gonna faint, and the lighting overhead was flickering, making paint start to flower above my eyes. "I'm not sure I want to go ahead with this," I said. "There's nothing to be concerned with," he replied, and before I could realize what was happening, he had nicked the skin of my neck with a needle. I immediately felt an unpleasant tingling sensation, and a numbness began to spread up into my face. He picked up a tablet computer that was resting along the equipment and studied it for a moment before turning back to me and asking, "Now, which eye would you like me to keep?" "What?" I exclaimed, or tried to, because my lips were numb and the word came out so slurred. "What are you talking about?" I managed. "I sold one of my kidneys, not my eyes." I did not wait for my answer. I was horrified and decided I wanted out of there. I tried to sit up, but the numbness had spread to my spine and then my arms. I was helpless to do anything but lie there and watch as he once more studied the tablet. No, he said in a quiet, relaxed voice. "The records show that you agreed to sell a body part, but did not specify which one." I ticked kidney, I tried to say, but now my mouth would not move, and I could not feel my tongue. I could feel my heart beating faster and faster, felt like I could not breathe. Cold sweat trickled down into my eyes, blurring my vision. I could see this, I could not feel it. I wanted to scream, wanted to cry in terror, but my jaw was locked, my limbs useless. All I could do was watch the scalpel go into view, and as he lowered it slowly towards my left eye, "It will all be over soon," he said, and then the blade became a shadow over my eye, a darkness that was soon all I could see. That was then, this is now. I am writing this from an internet cafe after trashing my laptop's hard drive and ditching it. There's just me here and the owner. I think he would like me to leave from the dirty looks he's been giving me. But before I head off, I have one more thing to do. I have enough money to buy a coach ticket and go a long way from here, away from everything and everyone I had ever known. I've just logged onto the site and found what I was looking for in the seller menu. Name, date of birth, social security number. I ticked sell on all three, entered the details in the box that popped up, pressed submit, and moments later the money was in my account. I have been withdrawing as much as I can daily, and after I go across the street to the ATM and withdraw the largest amount, I will snap my card in half and throw it away. This will be the fresh start, a past wiped clean, left behind. It's time to log off for good and make my escape, only the screen has changed. The comment box has opened up, a new message has appeared. We like and follow you. I feel tears begin to flow from the eye they did not take.
As you may have guessed, I am an artist. As an artist, I love to explore different styles, but I am old school in the sense that I refrain from using digital means to make my art. There is an entirely distinct elegance and fulfillment in watching my art grow from pencil scribbles to a vibrant depiction of whatever dominated my mind's eye at the time. While I do love to promote my artwork, it will soon become apparent why I cannot share much that could lead back to me. A few weeks ago, I started to grow tired of painting the same old style of portraits, objects, and scenes. I craved for something new, and I began exploring again. I should mention that I am, in my free time, an avid user of the deep web. Do not get me wrong, I do nothing illicit or taboo, like sell drugs or find hitmen to hire. I just love seeing all the peculiar and intriguing things the deep web has to offer. Therefore, while going through this drought of inspiration, I found a bustling art community on the deep web that was entirely unique, named the Nightmare Artists. This website was dedicated to disturbing and unsettling artwork. I opened the website, and I was immediately fascinated. This site was a web forum not unlike Reddit. Each post was a picture of a piece of artwork that someone had made. However, they all revolved around themes that would be considered dark by even the most depraved of art enthusiasts. Despite their disturbing themes, I was encapsulated by their detail. As I went through them, I grew to develop an uncanny admiration for the effort and time that must have gone into each piece of work. Meanwhile, the forum itself was bustling. Posts were being made every few hours, and commentators consistently had something to say. There was even a detailed guide on how the site could be located after a domain change. I could not believe I had not heard of this place before. The artwork, however alarming, left me in awe. Each piece looked meticulously and skillfully made. Even the milder ones, such as the depictions of mental illness and self-harm, were memorable. I fondly recall a sketch of a vortex of letters and words sinking into the gray matter of a rotting but alive human head. It was a strong allegory of ADHD and dyslexia. Others depicted grotesque scenes of carnage and violence. One of my favorites was an oil painting of a gladiator smashing the heads of two peasants together. While the idea itself was fairly primitive and non-abstract, the intricacy of each droplet of blood on the glistening golden armor, coupled with the unadulterated look of panic and fear on the peasants' faces, made the painting pristine. These were all amazing, but the ones I still have strong memories of are the ones more fantastical and unique in their uncanniness. These are the ones that made me question the mental state of the artist, An acrylic painting that stuck out distinctly depicted a weird being that was a ramshackle abomination of different animal parts knitted together with a human head. A leathery, crocodile-like hide attached to an abdomen of long gray tentacles that seems to levitate the thing off the ground where the animals whose parts had been used lay. The thing had more appendages protruding from its upper torso that resembled the furry arms of a gorilla. Where the chest should have been sat a large eye with a thin, inquisitive pupil that seems to glimpse directly into my soul. While I would go on with these descriptions, it would all be peripheral to the point of me sharing my experience with you. Suffice to say that this online forum was a treasure trove for artists and enthusiasts that admired and made work that was less conventional. I spent an entire day gawking at the works before I was overcome by tenacity and motivation. I was inspired. I was no longer in my frustrated creative confusion. I had decided that I would make my very own piece of unnerving art. Perhaps this could be a niche that invigorated me to produce something beyond the usual half-decent mediocrity. Over the next week, I worked consistently, day and night. I would be in my studio working on something marvelous in its unfiltered macabre form. While I had peered on the edge of such a style in my artistic career, I had never worked with such a conviction on any of my other work. A thought penetrated my determined state. Could this be it? The genre I had always been looking for? Did I no longer have to aimlessly make my half-hearted pieces to keep my fans content? At the week's end, I was done. I uploaded my pride onto the forum under my alias Lawless Creator 24. The artwork in question was an oil painting of crows picking at the corpses of fallen soldiers on a battlefield, while a beautiful sunset painted the sky in a magical amalgam of pinks and reds in the background. I named it Life Goes On, and uploaded it onto the site. I did not anticipate the popularity it would go on to garner. My painting held first place on the forum for an entire day. I was elated and had already begun planning for another piece. When I opened the website the next day, I noticed that I had received a message from a prolific and respected artist on the website that went by the alias Machination of Doom. It read, "Hello, Lawless Creator 24. I absolutely loved your most recent upload. Could I know what brand of paint you used?" After sharing the brand in question, I conversed with him further about his art style and creations he loved most. He seemed very insistent on finding the right colors to make his art as realistic as possible. After half an hour of text conversation, he sent me the following message. "I noticed that in a discussion in the comments you mentioned you were from the San Francisco Bay Area. I live there too. Would you like to meet up for a drink sometime?" I was ecstatic. Not only had I made a piece of art I was fully satisfied with, but I was already butting up with my contemporaries in the genre. We quickly arranged to meet at a famous bar for the very next evening itself, and I spent the entire night in a restless fit as I wondered how things would play out. Come that evening, I walked into the bar and texted him. "I'm here in the dark blue shirt next to the entrance." I saw a man walk up to me. He smiled as he prepared to greet me. He looked somewhat rats-like, to put it lightly. He couldn't be more than 5'4", and I had a mild suspicion that he was using shoe lifts after witnessing his awkward gait. He had a chinless mouth with teeth that seemed to protrude beyond his lower lip. His oily skin had a yellowish hue to it, and his coarse mane seemed to shrivel in self-embarrassment at the end of each hair. Despite this, it looked like he took care of himself. His teeth glistened white, and his hair was as neatly combed as it could be. He wore a dress shirt and tapered pants. I thought he had either gotten off of work, or he was not too versed with trendy attire. I, being average-looking myself, did not dwell on his appearance. "Hey, Lawless Creator. Call me Carl," he said with a tinge of awkwardness as he walked up to me and extended his arm in an invitation for a handshake. He had an odd accent I could not put my finger on. He sounded nasally and somewhat monotonous. As he drew closer with his handshake, I caught a whiff of his odor. The heavy use of deodorant and perfume seemed to mask the scent of rot and decay. I wrote this off as innocuous, and I was still optimistic about the meeting. Hey, Carl. Great that we finally meet. I'm Mark. Let's grab those stools over there, I responded, smiling. As we sat down and began enjoying beers, our conversation shifted away from trivial matters like the weather or current city affairs and towards our artwork. I love what you did with that painting with the crows. Thank you. It's great to receive all the appreciation. I honestly didn't expect it to do that well, I responded. I was thoroughly impressed with your most recent piece, too, the one with the cats and the restrained man. I shot back a compliment about one of his most acclaimed works on the site. Thank you. I was wondering what you thought of it. It took me a lot of time and sweat. Here, let me show you. He chuckled as he reached for his phone. Sure, I eagerly responded, wondering what he was about to show me. His phone screen lit to life, and he perfunctorily tapped at it before turning it to me. I recognized the image straight away. It had been up on the website a few days ago, and everyone had been blown away by its detail. The website had featured the painting of a man sitting in a chair with his hands and legs restrained, with two cats in his lap, curiously clawing at a bloody opening in his abdomen as the man stared down in pure terror. This image on the phone screen seems to be a somewhat more elaborate version of it. I was perplexed until I scooted my bar stool closer and peered forward to look more closely. This was not the realm of an artist's work, nor was this the clever editing of a piece of artwork to make it look more realistic. Then, I noticed the timestamp. It was not a piece of art. It was a picture shot on a camera. As I came to a harrowing revelation, my heart began to race, and my skin grew damp in a cold sweat. Neat, isn't it? I froze in place and looked into his eyes. They were crazed and maniac in their anticipation. Before another word could be uttered, I ran out of the bar as fast as my feet could carry me. I rushed home and sat petrified, my mind unable to construe anything besides fear. As I slowly gained my composure, I realized that I must have dropped my phone during the run since I could not find it anywhere. I booted up my computer to change my passwords and delete my account on that godforsaken website. And I saw that I had just gotten an email from myself. I thought someone may have found my phone. But then I read it. You'd make a fine specimen for my next piece.
Times were tight, and I knew it. Loan sharks and debt collectors had been knocking on my door every night, screaming curses. Rent was due, utilities were due. I lost my job because of the pandemic. I found a new one though, one where I had to work the whole night with little pay. There were even times when I went hungry. I was really desperate for a job, so I scoured the internet for one. Yes, even the dark web. Then I found the website. It was full of bright colors and devil cartoon characters in various poses. It promised big money and even fame. All I needed to do was sell my soul. I was desperate. I clicked on a link and filled up the form. 30 seconds later, there was a ping from my phone. The money had came in. $1 million as a welcome gift, and more to come. Promised a tagline at the end. My jaw dropped. $1 million was a lot of money. At that exact moment, I knew that all my problems were solved in an instant. For every month after that, $1 million were sent to my bank account. The loan sharks were paid. The utilities were paid. I could afford to buy better food now. Lobster and crab. I even bought a mansion on a private island. Parties were held at my mansion every night. The bar stacked with the finest wines. It was in one of those parties when I saw a man in a skull mask. He was wearing a black cloak and holding a scythe in his right hand. My heart froze into ice, and the website, which I had long forgotten, came rushing back to me. Bodies moved to the wild music in the booming bass like a tidal wave, but the man sliced through them like they weren't even there. "Your time has come," he said. I nodded numbly. There was nothing more I could do. He swung his scythe, and I felt my body burst open, blood exploding everywhere. The man rummaged around my insides, tossing out maroon kidneys, stomach, and heart, before closing his hands over a little squirming white orb. He put the orb inside the cloak and stitched me up the best he could. "Have a good day," he said. After he left, the world darkened to a solid gray. No matter how hard I tried, I could not seem to enjoy myself. Even living in a mansion was not so fun anymore. In the end, I sold everything and moved back to a single apartment. I even fell into old habits, drinking and drugs, and even that was truly tasteless. I was downing a bottle of whiskey, feeling nothing, when the man in the skull mask came back. This time, he was morbidly cheerful, grinning behind his skull mask. "Your soul was remarkably popular. They want more of you." I'm what you'd call a crypto addict. Before that though, I was someone who enjoyed browsing the deep web. I wasn't really looking for anything in particular, just curious as to whether or not the stories I've heard were true. Never really found anything creepy though, but it was my first encounter with Bitcoin. A few sites used it, and it was the first time I had ever heard of cryptocurrency. As such though, I had thought that it was a scam or something shady at that point. This was back in the years of 2012 through 2014. So as you can imagine, I'm already kicking myself for thinking that and not buying a few coins. My interest in the deep web waned over time, but around the year of 2017, I began reading about cryptocurrency and that the oh-so-shady thing Bitcoin on the mainstream news outlets. That is when I made a deeper dive into the world of crypto. My goal at the beginning was just to earn enough money to pay off my student loans. Of course, nothing was ever that easy. I had made nearly every single mistake you could make while buying crypto. Once I lost my seed phase, I sent crypto to the wrong wallet by mistake. I've sold at a loss countless times. Twice, I've been fooled by pump and dump schemes. Despite all this, my net monetary change from buying into crypto has still been positive overall. That's mainly because I wised up over the years and made back the money I lost and then some. Of course, every time I hear about a random coin going up 20 times in price, I do wish I would have seen the opportunity, but I know most of those coins probably don't have much value or long-term prospects. I invest in safe projects, of course, like almost anyone else. I've been on the lookout for the next big thing, the next big project that's gonna go to the moon, so to speak. I got an email from an old acquaintance of mine. Let's call him Frank. Frank and I went back to the days when I scoured the deep web, and the two of us would often exchange information regarding anything interesting that we'd find. I hadn't got a message from him in 2 years though, so it was kind of a surprise. "Hey, I know it's been a while, but I saw this weird thing and I think you would want to check it out. I see from your profile that you've been in the crypto space for a while, right? What do you think about this? It's a site claiming to have made a new kind of coin." There was a link to a website. At first, I was really confused. This website was on the deep web, but according to this mail, was regarding a new crypto coin. That made no sense. When you made a new coin, one of the first things you wanted to do is to get as many people in the project as possible. Making all your information about the new coin exclusive to the deep web was a guarantee that it would probably never take off. Then again, maybe they were making some sort of super secure coin, which the government couldn't trace, so they were trying to keep it on the down low. Regardless, I decided to check out the link. The website was honestly nothing to write home about. It was decently organized, but rather plain. It looked like a web page from 2007. This was definitely the wrong thing to do if you wanted people to be interested in what you were doing, or convincing them that you had a great idea for something. There wasn't even much information on the site about the coin itself, with most of it linking to a video that they had made. There was a forum, but only accessible to members. Guessing there was nothing else to go, I went ahead and clicked on the video. It showed a dark room with a desk right in the middle. Someone walked in wearing a white mask and a dark hoodie. As he spoke, his voice was distorted, so he clearly was using a filter or something. Greetings. Thank you for your interest in our new project, one by which we hope to revolutionize the very concept of cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. I have long since been a member of the crypto space, and I consider myself to be an environmentalist first. You must have already heard about the environmental impact that mining cryptocurrency has. Many people have spoken about that. As such, we wanted to look for a way to solve this problem. A solution quickly came to me, but it was a little bit of an unorthodox one. You see, I am a man of many interests, and the occult was one of them. One thing I've always been told was that spirits, demons, what have you, they always know everything that's going on in the world. They don't follow the normal laws of physics either. It was at this point that I began frowning. What on earth was this? Was this guy really talking about ghosts and spirits in a crypto video? I thought it might be possible to use this to our advantage. You see, a spirit can theoretically solve a problem in an instant. Time works different for them, and the best part is, the environmental impact is nil. I was just ready to turn it off at this point. What kept me going was the mild curiosity regarding where this guy was going. This had to be some sort of scam, right? But what was the scam? Was he gonna ask for donations first? Or was he just trying to install malware on my computer? I mean, he must have made this video for a reason, right? I just wanted to know what the scam was so I could tell Frank what it was. I searched around in many books on the occult until I came upon them. They do have a name, but not one that you could speak freely in this tongue. Suffice it to say that certain supernatural creatures are willing to help us and mine our coins for us. Now, of course, you must be thinking that such a thing isn't worth your soul. Rest assured, though, that these creatures don't want our souls, simply our bodies. I told them that in that case, they should buy us all a round of drinks first. You, as a human, can rent your body out for a small portion of the day. In exchange, these creatures will mine coins for you. That's right, I managed to connect to the spirit realm with the internet so that they can mine cryptocurrency for us. Right now, we are starting out by mining Bitcoin by this method to test it out, but we'll release our own project very soon. I can say though that I'm quite excited by the potential of our upcoming coin, as it will be mined only by these entities. All the information will be held not only on the internet, but within the spirit realm as well. So even if every database on Earth was wiped clean, we will recover the data. For now though, we are just seeing how easy it is to mine Bitcoin using this method. If you are interested in renting out yourself, you can go ahead and sign the contract given on our site. If you're interested in simply buying some of our coins when the new project will be released by conventional methods, please stay tuned for further updates. Thank you. The video ended at that, and I was left confused. Making this all would have taken cash and some time, so was it really just a hoax? How are they planning on making money out of this? With no further information available, I checked out the forums, but that was only open to the people who have signed their contract for now. I took a look at this contract. It was needlessly long and annoyed me because I knew there was no way a site like this could ever take anyone to court if the contract was violated. So what was the point? The gist of the whole thing was that you would agree to rent out your body for a time ranging from 1 to 10 hours a day. In exchange, you would get a set amount of Bitcoin per day, with it increasing depending on how long you rented yourself out. Let's say you got X amount for an hour, then you get 20 times X for 10 hours. Clearly, it was designed for people who chose the maximum amount of time possible. Frustrated, I put down my section as 1 hour and hit accept. A message popped up. This contract will be valid for 1 year. It cannot be canceled before then. Are you sure you want to accept? I scoffed at the idea of them trying to enforce the contract and hit the accept button. A congratulatory message popped up, as well as an address to a wallet that I could unlock. Disappointed, I browsed the site a bit more and saw nothing to explain what it really was. I could only chalk this all up to be a very elaborate hoax. The next day, I went about my day as usual when something odd happened as I left my driveway. I found myself in my office an instant later. If I had been paying a bit more attention at the time, I would have noticed that I had lost exactly 1 hour, but I wasn't. I had zoned out while driving to work occasionally, but not ever when I was entering the building. I chalked it up to me just having a long daydream though. Things didn't worry me, not yet at least. Something similar happened the next day, though I had some trouble noticing this as it happened while I was chilling around home. I just thought I lost track of time and the sky suddenly became a lot darker. The third day though, it happened at work. I was in a meeting and then it was over and I was at my desk. On one hand, I was happy I was able to skip the meeting, but I also knew I was losing my mind. The MRIs came back normal and the doctors thought I had a dissociative identity disorder. But a month later I found myself in my house with some jewelry I had no recollection of getting. I learned the next day that one of my neighbors had been mugged, but didn't know who it was. That day, I suddenly found myself in the park with a shattered glass in my shoulder. I learned that someone had smashed another neighbor's car. Fed up with this, I installed cameras around the house to watch me, and that night I saw myself leave the house and come back later with some cash. Cash I must have stolen. Yeah, I learned that someone's house had been broken into the day after that. I finally put 2 and 2 together and went back to the website. I hadn't checked my wallet, but it had a substantial amount of Bitcoin now. Clearly, this thing hadn't been a hoax. They wouldn't be paying me if they weren't getting something out of it. Whatever entity chose to inhabit my body started out just by mimicking what I would do normally, but it was clear that I was getting more and more daring with the theft and vandalism it was doing. I read the long contract again, and I saw no termination clause. I can't exactly communicate with this thing that takes control of me, and even if I could, I have a feeling that it doesn't want to leave. Forum posts on the site are really no help, as a few people seem to be in the same boat as me, but I have no idea what to do. This site doesn't have a customer service section, to no surprise. Based on what I've read of the contract, the entity can't hurt me, or my property, or do a crime that would lead to me being arrested or such. But it can do crime as long as it makes sure that I'm not going to get caught later on. Anyway, I highly doubt it wants me to be arrested. It would not have as much fun as when I'm free to roam around. In the end though, I realized that I couldn't live like this. There's nothing else to do but wait for my contract to expire, so I moved to a very remote area where there are only a few people around. I'm glad for that, so that the thing can't harm anyone else. I've even had to give my dog away to my parents for the time being. I don't know if she'd count as my property, but I don't want them hurting her one day. I read on a forum post on that site that someone found themselves with blood on their hands after a blackout, and that they were freaking out while wondering whose it was. It's obviously much worse for those who rented their bodies out for several hours. I guess I should be thankful that I only agreed to 1 hour. I've quit my job and I only go out to town to get supplies when the hour is up. I thought about maybe tying myself up so I can't get out, but I still need to do things like go to the bathroom, and that sounds like a terrible way to live. It's been 3 months in total, and there are 9 left. The coins I keep getting are enough to pay the living expenses, thankfully. I might have had to rent myself out for longer if that wasn't the case. I'm writing this because I'm curious if there's a lawyer among us who might be willing to read over the contract I agreed to. If every contract has a loophole, I'd be happy if you could find one in this one. I can't go to a regular attorney, of course, given that no one would believe me. I mean, where would I even go to dispute this? But if there's someone among you who is experienced with dealing with supernatural contracts, do please contact me. I would also prefer if you could accept payment in Bitcoin.